I am hurt with Paul because he stopped loving me.
Okay. And do you have um, a particular instance or time when that that you can focus in on while answering these questions?
Hmm.
Okay. So, can you just describe it maybe in a sentence to me?
Well, it was the last time that I saw him, and um, I was an accidental meeting. I hadn't seen him in months, and I hadn't seen him, but he had emailed recently, kind words. I'll wait. You're worth the wait. Blah blah blah. And then maybe a week later, as it would happen, I accidentally ran into him, and he was detached, like listless,
Mm.
uh, wouldn't even give a hug, and I didn't know what was going on. I felt anxious, and we had exchanged a few words, and then I went into the meeting that I was going into, and it was a women's meeting, and in walked this gal that I had seen on his Facebook. Um, a while back, there was some flirtatious stuff going on, and I realized then that he was waiting for her. That's why he was out there. And
Okay. So
that's it.
that's your situation. Um, so he stopped loving you. Is that true?
Um, well, okay, no, it felt like it. I don't know. I can't get into his head. So no, I don't know. I no. I guess the answer is no.
Okay. So how do you react? What happens when you believe this thought that he stopped loving you in that situation?
Well, it hurts. It it feels like rejection. It feels um, it, it 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 hurts.
Yeah. And when you were there with him, did you notice any sensation in your body? Any physical sensation?
Yes, my chest was. I just was anxious. I was so surprised to see him, and I was watery-eyed. Um, I just wanted him to hug me. I was going through a hard time. The meeting was a recovery meeting,
Mm.
and I wanted him to be my friend. I wanted him to, yeah. So physically, I was anxious, nervous.
Yeah. And how did you treat him when you had this thought that you want him or that he stopped loving you? How did you treat him in your mind or even in the little interaction you had?
I was I was distant. I was cordial, but I think I was playing more on his cue, so I just backed off, like I didn't, like a wall almost. I was cordial. I sat down next to him, so I treated him just cordially. Just I sat next to him to try to have a conversation. So I,
And since that time, how have you treated him in your mind with this thought that he stopped loving you?
um, like my enemy, like I start treating him, oh, angrily in my head, like an enemy, um, a user, um, Yeah, just just distant.
Yeah. So, who would you be in that same situation if you didn't have the thought that he stopped loving you?
Um, let's see. I would be cordial again. I would be probably warm. I would have asked questions. I would have asked questions. I
Hmm.
would, what's going on? um, I created a story in my head, and the story stopped me from asking questions. I would have been happy to see him. I would have been at peace. I would have been grateful that we got a chance to bump into each other. Um, yeah, I would have been happy to just have been able to see him.
Hmm. Yeah. So let's turn this thought around. He stopped loving me.
Um, well, he didn't stop loving me.
He didn't stop loving you. So what's an example of how that could be as true or truer?
Um, hmm, I don't know. I can't get into his head.
Well, we can look at possibilities, like up to this point you've been sure that he stopped loving you. So what could be a possible explanation or possible way that he might have still showed up the way he did but didn't stop loving you?
Oh, well, okay. He didn't stop loving me, but he loved himself and he needed to detach because he knows I had already told him I wasn't gonna be involved with him. Um, I broke up with him.
Hmm. So it's possible that he didn't stop loving you. He just respected your wish not to be with him.
Yeah, it's possible.
Possible. What else? How else could you find maybe that he didn't stop loving you? Have you ever been in a relationship that ended and then moved on to another relationship? And even though you loved the second person, you still love the first person?
Hmm. Have I, I haven't loved a lot, so yeah, that would be. Um,
It's okay. What do you find? What could be a possible way of looking at that possibly he didn't stop loving you?
um, well, let's see. He, he didn't say he didn't stop loving me. He didn't. I know it's very difficult.
Yeah, he didn't say. And didn't you say something the week before you had some exchange that was pretty
Yeah,
positive?
that's why it was confusing. He said, that well, that he loved me, and that he said he loved me the week before, and he asked me to go to lunch, and uh, I just I said not yet, not now. Um, but yeah, he said I was 1,000% worth the kind of the wait. He even said that if we ever got back together, that he would go to like counseling so we could talk about these issues. He said that he would keep a promise that he made to me, which was to find me in May, which is his 1 year sobriety. Um, even if it was just to bring closure
Mm.
to it. But it was a very traumatic breakup because he tried to commit suicide. And I just, you know, uh, yeah. So I have to work on myself.
Yeah, so looking at what you just said there, it's possible that he still loves you. He didn't stop loving you because just a week before he said that he does love you and demonstrated or said quite a few other things that indicated the same thing. So then let's look at his behavior in that moment. He was more cold and more distant, and you said that that another woman, he came in with another woman. So given that situation, could his behavior be influenced by the situation and him still love you like he did the week before?
Yes, he was. He actually didn't come up in with the woman. He was sitting there waiting for her to come in. So I've thought about that. He may have been totally like freaked out, like, oh crap, one woman coming in. Here's my ex-girlfriend, and he might have frozen in that respect.
Yeah.
Um,
And
you
then the
know,
mind takes that as literal proof that he stopped loving me. But it could be that he was just frozen. He's like, oh my God, here I am, almost like busted or something, like I don't know what to
right,
do because I've got one woman coming and here's my ex-girlfriend and yeah,
right. And I had kind of blasted him a few weeks earlier or a week earlier. So at some point when I saw this flirtatious thing going on Facebook, it was the one of the last contacts I had with him because I got jealous. I said, "Who?
mm,
What do you know? You you're seducing another woman? Kind of that." And he told me to
yeah.
basically don't take his inventory, stay out of his business, and I got it and I apologized. It really was none of my business, what
But
he
it may
does.
have left him feeling insecure about around you, like he experienced your jealousy before, and then here's the woman coming together with you. It really could have led to that feeling of frozenness.
It could have, and and I should have actually add another when we get to
Okay,
the should have because I have another one because there's I would have liked him to have acted differently at that point.
right, right. So, okay, so he stopped loving me was our original concept, and we found a few examples of how it's possible that he didn't stop loving me, even though he behaved the way he did. So, what's another turnaround for this statement? He stopped loving me.
I stopped loving him.
Yeah. So, in that moment, can you find it?
Yes. The nervousness, the anxiousness was because I I didn't want to see him. I did and I didn't, but I was not ready. I I broke up with him because I wasn't even sure if I was in love with him.
Hmm.
You know, I broke up with him because I saw red flags, and I have issues with just trying to figure out what love is. You know, what love, what is that in a relationship that's healthy and not like addictive.
Yes. Yes. And how about in the moment when, like when he wasn't responding warmly, he wasn't hugging you, or he wasn't, he was just kind of, I think you said standoffish or something like that. Did you notice in you uh, that you stopped loving in that instant, like just in that moment even? Maybe not big picture wise, but like, did your heart close towards him?
Yeah, protective clothes.
Protective close. Yeah. So that's an example. I stopped loving him, at least in that moment. And
Yeah.
then afterwards, like you said, you kept on. What did you say? Like made him almost felt like he was your enemy or something later on as time went on. So can you find there examples of how you stopped loving him after that interaction?
Yes. After that interaction, yes, it brought up other memories, earlier memories of him one time detaching from me 3 years earlier. Uh, Again, another woman was involved. And so I just figured, yeah, I was right the whole time. See, it happened again. I
Yeah.
was right the whole time. And then it went into the tailspin. Well, he used me. Um, he was just waiting for another host, and all these emails were just keeping me in line, and until that other host, kind of the other girl, the other woman came into the picture, and then once he had her, it was like, okay, bye bye, Kim.
Yeah. So you used all of those things to like as examples or as yeah, as ways of not keeping of not of stop you stopped loving him in those like when you saw him that way. It's almost impossible to love him when you're seeing him that way. It's like just waiting for another person or all of that. So yeah, so lots of examples where you stopped loving him. Maybe not permanently, but in those moments, in those ways.
Mhm.
Um, so, what's another turnaround? Can you find another way of turning around this thought? He stopped loving me.
I stopped loving myself. Um, the work that I've been going since we broke up was that I've been doing for myself in the last 7 months. Because I was married for 17 years prior, and we went to Paul, and Paul and I got together shortly after. So it's been 20 years since I've been on my own, and so the work that I've been doing really is to try to find peace with solitude, to love myself, so I can truly, simply love another, not to be loved. You know.
Yes.
Um, it was a condition in my relationship with Paul to be loved. I didn't know it at the time, but I realize it now.
Hmm.
It was more, I want to be loved rather than I love you, you know?
Yeah.
And so the work I've been doing is about that. So in not loving, when I say in that moment I stopped loving myself, it was because in that moment I wanted him to love me. And it was everything that I'm working so hard to stop.
Yes. Yeah.
It's, you know, yeah, it is. I just, everything that I've been working on, and the reason I broke up was simply because I was wanted to follow the heart, the voice in my head. This is not the right person for you, and you have a lot of work to do on yourself, and it's going to be hard, but do it. And part of it was the work. The work was what also I had to deal with my fear of being alone. That was the first worksheet I did.
Mm.
And then began the journey of being able to detach, because it wasn't Paul I was detaching from. It was a way of life, of making men my higher power, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was a way of life of going, making, thinking relationships was going to fix everything. So in that moment, I wasn't loving myself, because had he been even the remotely warm to me, I might have gone straight back to what I have been working so hard to to heal from,
Yeah.
you know, and how vulnerable I was to do that, to lose myself. And yes.
So when you compare it to the original statement, which is he stopped loving me, and then you look at I stopped loving me, which one seems truer to you?
I stopped loving me is definitely truer. At that moment, it was just to make the pain go away, just make the pain go away.
Yeah.
It was me using him in that moment, just make it go away, you know, the things I've been dealing with.
Yes. Good. Now, there's one other turnaround that I sometimes like to look at, and sometimes people call it the Yahoo turnaround, or just an exclamation point at the end of the same sentence. He stopped loving me, and say,
Hmm.
he stopped loving me. Yay. How is that a good thing?
Yahoo statement, huh?
Woohoo! So how could it be a good thing that he stopped loving you? We're not even sure that it's true, but if it was true, how's that good?
Because it gave me my freedom. Because he set me free.
Yeah.
It's all good. The reality, his detachment, his moving on, his not loving me, is ultimately for such a amazing higher purpose. I don't know what it is, but it feels right. It
Hmm.
feels right.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a big Yahoo. And when I'm in the right mind and I'm not in a pity party or, you know, feeling so lonely, you know, it's then I can see with clarity that this was such a divine thing, the divine happening, that I ran into him and that everything worked so perfectly. It was just perfect, you know.
Yeah.
When I'm in the right mind, I can say Yahoo.
Yes, exactly. Good.